Can the new Galaxy S25 Ultra dethrone the iPhone 16 Pro Max as the best smartphone you can buy right now? Well, in this video, we're gonna be testing a bunch of different things like the performance with that Snapdragon 8 Elite chip versus the A18 Pro. We're gonna compare the displays, the cameras, the speakers, and so much more, so let's get right into it. We've already been using the S25 Ultra for a couple of days since we are at Galaxy Unpacked in San Jose, so I got used to this design, but I will say there are some differences that are rather interesting. First of all, with that camera bump layout, it's basically the same as before, but Samsung put on these kind of larger camera lens rings on, and in my opinion, it kind of is a little bit weird because you have these tiny gaps in between, so it's kind of hard to clean. Of course, the iPhone has its classic design that it's had for so long. I'm kind of getting sick of it. I can't wait for them to change this up. Now, in terms of feel in the hand, Samsung did kind of round out these corners, which thank you, Samsung. Finally, you've done that. It now feels kind of nice and comfortable in my palm. It no longer really digs in. You can see we have that hole punch, which is so much less intrusive than the dynamic island. Now, of course, the Samsung does have their S Pen, which is nice if you want to do note taking, but they did remove the Bluetooth functionality, which is definitely a downgrade, but not that many people honestly use it anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. And now let's jump into our famous speaker test. All right, wow, so I just listened a couple of times, and surprisingly, the S25 Ultra does have the slight edge in terms of speakers. It's a little bit louder and sounds just as clear, just as nice. Mids are just as good. Very impressive. And now getting into the display quality comparison, these displays are actually more similar than ever before. They're now both 6.9-inch displays, but the S25 Ultra does have the edge for resolution. It has 1440p compared to about 1320p on the iPhone. But my favorite thing about this display is this right here. Samsung's anti-glare glass is absolutely amazing. Take a look at this side shot right here and the difference in reflectivity. The Samsung display is obviously so much darker, so black compared to the iPhone, which is very reflective, so it looks gray. And this is their Gorilla Armor Glass 2 or whatever, which is absolutely amazing. This is literally the one thing that I wish Apple would do. I wanted it for the 16 Pro Max. They didn't change anything at all, so we still have these reflections. Please, for the 17 Pro Max, give us this anti-glare screen. Now, in terms of the display brightness, when you do a full page of white like Google and you're indoors and you set it manually to full, the iPhone is actually a little bit brighter than the Samsung. However, the Samsung should have a higher peak brightness of 2,600 nits compared to outdoor use on the iPhone, which is 2,000 nits. However, I went outside and I went in front of the sun with auto brightness turned on both, and the iPhone was actually brighter than the Samsung. So what gives? Why are we not seeing that? Well, I went to theverge.com where it's mostly black with some white text, and now the Samsung is actually brighter. So it seems like when you have a full page of white, the Samsung does not get as bright as the iPhone. Now, in terms of HDR quality in YouTube, when you're watching movies, shows, whatever, looking at the differences here, you can see that the Samsung is a little bit brighter in terms of the HDR, and surprisingly, the colors also seem to pop out more and look a lot nicer. But when you look at darker scenes like these OLED tests, the difference is absolutely massive. You are no longer seeing all of these reflections. Like the iPhone's display, especially at an angle, looks a little bit gray, whereas the Samsung has almost pure blacks thanks to the anti-glare. So because of that contrast and those pure blacks, it looks a lot better in terms of colors and just everything. So Samsung, you killed it on the display side. But first, if you're gonna be getting the S25 Ultra, don't forget a protective case like the O-Stand 360 spin case from our sponsor Taurus, who is the original designer of the O-Stand case. The awesome thing about this case is that it comes with a MagSafe stand built in with 18N magnetic strength, which does not affect the S Pen in any way, and it's completely flush with the case, so it feels really smooth in your hands. It also has ultimate drop protection with these raised edges on the corners and has 18 airbags on the inside of the case for accidental drops. They have 3 case colors to choose from: the translucent, black, and this really cool dune color. And for even better protection, Taurus also has the Glasgow X screen protector, which you apply with just one pull and that's it. And now you're protected against scratches and big drops of up to 12 feet, and there's no issues with using the S Pen. So go ahead and check out the case and screen protector using our links in the description and pinned comment below. And now let's jump into some performance testing. The first thing I want to do is test the storage speed. So right here, I have Jazz Diskbench on the iPhone. Unfortunately, I can't download it for some reason on the Samsung anymore, but I have cross-platform disk test. I ran it, and you can see right here, in terms of sequential write, looks like the iPhone has about 1.4 gigs compared to 1 on the Samsung, so the iPhone's a little bit faster. However, for read speed, 2.95 gigs compared to 1.5, almost twice as fast, which is very impressive. And then for the random read, look at that, 52 megabytes per second compared to 43. And then for the write, we have 75 compared to 32. So the Samsung is definitely killing it in terms of the storage. And now let's get into Geekbench 6, looking at CPU performance. The S25 Ultra has the new Snapdragon 8 Elite, which to me is a big deal because it's the first 3nm chip that they've made. So there's a lot of efficiency improvements, and the performance is supposed to be really, really good. Of course, the iPhone has the A18 Pro with 8 gigs of RAM compared to 12 gigs on the 8 Elite. So let's go ahead and start the CPU benchmark. All right, here we go. And wow, holy smokes. Is this the first time ever that a Samsung has beaten the iPhone in at least anything chip related? Look at this. Well, looking at the single core, the iPhone is still faster. It's about 13% faster than the S25 Ultra's 8 Elite chip, but take a look at the multi-core. 13.5% faster multi-core on the Samsung than the iPhone. And now I wanna get into 3D Mark Steel Nomad Light. That's a new modern benchmark. I've made them max in terms of brightness because I wanna look for dimming to see if this test kind of is making them overheat and dim. So let's run that new test. All right, so the Samsung was dimmed for a while. That's because it started sooner thanks to its faster storage. But the iPhone also just dimmed slightly. And holy smokes, guys, 16.25 FPS on the Snapdragon 8 Elite compared to 10.4 on the iPhone. Absolutely smoked the iPhone in this case for graphics performance. Let's play a game. All right, so I've opened up Call of Duty Mobile here, and thankfully they have the same graphics settings. We have Ultra available, which lets you set it to 120 FPS on both of them. They're still maxed out brightness. All right, so I'm on the S25 Ultra and it feels insanely smooth. Of course, I don't have an FPS counter. Okay, let's switch over to this one. Woo! Okay, we got rid of that guy. Also insanely smooth. So both phones feel insanely smooth. The Samsung does have better graphics performance and multi-core CPU, which can also be used for these mobile games. And now with that out of the way, let's get into the cameras. Well, thankfully with the S25 Ultra, we got the opportunity to go to Galaxy Unpacked. So we already made a couple of videos on the cameras and we tested a bunch of things out. So in terms of that new 50 megapixel ultra wide, yes, it's nice. It might be an upgrade compared to the S24 Ultra, but for everything we tested, it seemed like the iPhone had better video quality for ultra wide. Some of the photos we cropped into actually had better detail as well, so the iPhone was better there. In terms of selfies, the Samsung did better in almost every selfie scenario that we did, especially at night. So much sharper and better. Absolutely killer job. In terms of the main camera, the Samsung also did really, really good. It really surprised us, especially for portraits and at night. It did a great job, and I think it's because of the Snapdragon 8 Elite. That's the first custom chip with Samsung and Qualcomm working together on a custom AP. So the image signal processor does improve things compared to the S24 Ultra. Very impressed in terms of the main camera. In terms of video in general, the iPhone was the clear winner in so many different scenarios except for one, which is by far the S25 Ultra's biggest advantage, and that is the 5x optical telephoto camera, which is so good because it's a 50 megapixel compared to only 12 on the iPhone. So when you zoom in, every single time, the Samsung was better, especially going up to 100x zoom, so much better in that case. And also for zoom video, absolutely killed it, especially at night. The only issue was this weird kind of stuttering issue with the stabilization. Other than that, the 5X made it really, really nice. So if you want to see that video comparison that we did, you can watch that after this one ends. And we also just did a blind comparison. Definitely watch that. But surprisingly, the S25 Ultra was the winner for both Max and Ben. So they came out strong, and surprisingly, they beat the iPhone. Great job, Samsung, with your cameras. So with all of that said and tested, which phone is better for 2025? Well, shockingly, the S25 Ultra was better in so many different ways. First of all, the storage speed was faster. The performance was faster from multi-core and especially graphics. That's like 60% better graphics. Holy smokes. That was very, very impressive. The display is better. It has higher resolution. It has the hole punch, which is less intrusive, and especially the anti-glare. The brightness was better in HDR. The speakers were better in terms of loudness, and quality was still great. The camera system overall was better, and this year it has a nicer rounded corner redesign, which I really like. Of course, it also has the S Pen. It has more RAM. Guys, this is insane. I'd say this is the first year in a few years where Samsung is clearly beating the iPhone. Even though not that much has changed compared to the S24 Ultra, everything put together is very finely polished, and I'm so impressed with what Samsung has done with the S25 Ultra. So with that said, if you're not stuck in the Apple ecosystem, then I gotta say, the S25 Ultra is actually a better phone. So thanks for watching, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and definitely check out one of those two videos right there, the unbiased camera comparison and the video quality comparison. Subscribe because we got more videos coming comparing these phones in different scenarios. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.